I mentioned to you, but I reached out to you because I met Nelsie, and I really took to the idea that her research is focusing on the behavior of birds, and she was mentioning the difference between male and female birds and their behaviors in the different parts. Can you give context to that for me?
Sure. So it's springtime now. And when you wake up in the early morning and you hear robins singing outside and the chickadees are singing, all of those sounds are sung solely by males. Females are quiet at this time of year, and those are the breeding sounds of males. And through all of the history of universities, people have gone outside and studied those sounds, but we have got an incomplete picture of the world because most of the world's universities are in the temperate zone, but most of Earth's biodiversity is located near the equator at the tropics. That's where you have these super biodiverse rainforests. So we have a picture in universities that's focused on the temperate zone that doesn't match up with everything we see near the tropics. In the tropics, it's both males and females that produce complex songs. And we haven't studied this very well. There's many parallels to many other aspects of biology or other disciplines as well, such as chemistry and many other fields where there are different patterns in tropical countries than there are in the temperate zone. And so it's so important that we study the biology of the tropics and the chemistry of the tropics and other scientific processes in the tropics. And I think it's really important that we study those by working hand in hand with international students. We can't just be parachute scientists who go from the temperate zone into the tropics, gather the data we need, and then bring it back to the University of Windsor. We do much stronger science if we work with local people to help understand those local animals, those local phenomena. So I was so excited to recruit Nelsie Nino to join my research lab as one example of an outstanding international graduate student, because she's someone with an interest and a passion in trying to understand the voices of tropical birds, and who can be the person who leads an investigation into the question of how do tropical birds differ from temperate birds. And she can be doing it in the country that she has gained her education up to this point in, where she knows the local people, she knows the local language, and she can do much stronger research than I ever could there. And as a team, you know, a professor at University of Windsor, an international student working together, we can bring the expertise that I've built here and her knowledge and her on-the-ground skills to gain a deeper insight into why do tropical birds sound the way they do.
Has she brought questions and inquiries to the table that you hadn't thought of before?
Oh, yes. She has brought many new ideas that I could never have had. And that's because she grew up listening to the birds of Columbia and the soundscape of a Columbian forest. And so she has developed all sorts of new observations that I have never been exposed to. For example, she's developed this really innovative PhD project focused on a group of birds called the seed eaters, small birds with big beaks that they use for crushing seeds. And she has found that males and females will mimic the sounds of other birds in their environment. Something we do know in the temperate zone. Mockingbirds do the same kind of thing. But she's found that females do it in this case, and she's interested in what are the reasons promoting female mimicry, what are the differences between male and female mimicry, how important are the mimicked sounds of males to a female who's making a mate choice decision. She's got all of these great new questions that I would never have come up with. So she really has enriched the research within our lab in a way we couldn't have done without her international expertise.
Yeah, her enthusiasm for birds was palpable. And the idea that she's seeing, you know, her first blue jay and her first cardinal. But her knowledge goes into asking, what she was saying, asking questions why females have no reason to mimic the other birds' voices. So why are they doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, she's got some ideas that might relate to teaching their young about which predators in their environment they need to avoid. This could be one reason that females are mimicking the sounds of other animals as a way of teaching their young about other animals in the environment. But she has a lot of new ideas. She's quite early in her PhD, so she's designing these experiments overseen by professors at our university to try and test those ideas. I'm really excited to find out what she'll learn over the 4 years ahead.
And I can't help but ask, I mean, we've done stories on the financial constraints and a lot of things that international students are facing. What would it mean to your research if she was removed or sent back to Columbia?
Imagine a university here in Canada that's only populated by Canadian students, especially at the graduate level, where our master's students and our doctoral students are the ones asking the most important questions in science and in academia. If that is only reflecting a Canadian perspective, then we don't have as rich an understanding of the world around us as if we have international scholars working with our Canadian scholars. So this is a really high priority for the Faculty of Science at the University of Windsor, to make sure that our graduate students are Canadian and also international students working together to solve new problems in a way that, let's call it a brain gain. The brain gain is that we gain all of these great minds working from perspectives that are global to address problems here at the University of Windsor that are much broader than we could if we only came with our own perspective. And the field of science would really be diminished if we only had a restricted set of minds working on the most important problems, whether it's the problems we're interested in ornithology or like the broader problems that we would see across science, or even broader than science across the whole university. So I don't think we can be a great university. We certainly can't be a diverse university if we don't open our doors to international students, if we don't create financial paths where they can afford to be here, and if we don't involve them in asking the big questions about how the world works. And so it's a really high priority for us.
That's my question. Is there anything you want to add before we wrap?
I know there's a lot of focus on financial challenges and international graduate students as a source of revenue for Canadian universities. I don't look at it through a negative lens. I really look at it through a positive lens, that we have some challenges to make sure that once international graduate students arrive, they have a rich set of opportunities and the financial support to afford a place to live and food to eat and so on. But I observe this as something that is so positive for us as the host institution to bring in these bright minds and expand the depth of the questions that we can ask. And it's a set of challenges that, at least at the University of Windsor, we're really excited to take on those challenges of making everything work, because we're better scientists, we're better educators, we're better researchers when we invite international scholars to be part of our campus.
Yeah, it was very evident speaking to Nelsie that it's a knowledge base. This is a prime example of a knowledge base that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Totally, Amy. I'm glad you see that.
Yeah. Thank you. This was fun.
Okay, Amy. Yeah, I hope we'll talk again. And if I can provide anything else, please just email me.